The ICC decision to issue an arrest warrant against Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former defense minister, who has now since been fired from his role just a couple of weeks ago, to me is a shame. Is a shameful decision. Is a stain on the court, and will achieve one objective, which is basically encourage more terrorism. The lesson or the message that is sent around the world is that terrorism pays, and you being Hamas or any other terrorist organization, can attack a democratic country like Israel, can massacre its civilians, can kidnap 250 of its people, can rape and sexually assault dozens of women. And basically, the court that was meant to prevent genocide is going to encourage more genocide. And this is the main problem with the court's decision. We can obviously be critical of Israel's policies, strategies, tactics, but to make a comparison between what Israel has been doing defending itself and its people in the most legitimate way ever since the October 7th attack of last year to what a international criminal court is meant to prosecute is a true stain and dark day for the pursuit of justice, I think, in the world. The impact of this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because on the one hand, this will potentially curtail Netanyahu's ability to travel to different countries around the world. The Rome Statute, which is what founded and upon which the ICC was established, there are signatories. There are dozens of different countries that have signed on to this. Some of them including friends of Israel that are in Europe, right? The United States, for example, is not a signatory, so there would be no problem for the prime minister or for Yoav Gallant to travel to the US. But if they wanted to travel to the United Kingdom or they wanted to travel to Germany, countries that have signed on to the ICC statute, what would happen? Would Keir Starmer's government now arrest the prime minister of Israel? Would Olaf Scholz, the chancellor of Germany, would his government now arrest the prime minister of Israel? I mean, these are going to be decisions that they will all have to make. And I'm sure they will be pressed on, definitely within parliament or by the media. But these are decisions that they're going to have to make. And there's going to have to be decisions made by the state and the government of Israel. Do they take the risk of traveling to these places, knowing that there is this definite risk of an arrest? So I would definitely, in the short term, I don't think we'll see the prime minister getting on any plane anywhere to travel to any country with that risk of getting arrested. Sadly, what it basically means is it puts the prime minister of Israel in the same boat almost as the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, who has also had an arrest warrant issued for him by the ICC. And for example, when there was, I think, a meeting of BRICS, which was, those different nations that got together. So there was that meeting in Russia that recently took place. But before that, there was going to be a meeting in South Africa. And as my memory serves me right, he did not travel to the meeting in South Africa because of the fear of an arrest warrant. So this really does have an impact. That's on the one hand. The second level to look at, though, is what can be done to overturn the decision or to change what has happened in the ICC. And I think that here Israel is going to have to rely heavily on its allies and friends around the world, and particularly the United States. The Trump administration, which will be coming into office in about 2 months from now on January 20th, is the inauguration of the new president. This will be an opportunity for the administration to crack down on the ICC. It's unclear exactly what they could do. There's been different proposals that have been put on the table. For example, that the administration or maybe even the Senate would pass laws that would impose sanctions on the justices themselves, the judges of the International Criminal Court, maybe personal sanctions. And that would be something that would serve either as a deterrent, although that's no longer the case because the decision has been made, or at least as a punitive measure. The incoming national security advisor to Donald Trump, Congressman Mike Waltz, put out a tweet earlier basically saying that in January there is going to be repercussions for what he called the anti-Semitic ICC has decided to do. So again, referring to when Donald Trump takes office, we'll have to wait and see. But once the decision has been made, it's not going to be simple to reverse that decision. Israel and Lebanon are currently, as we speak, continuing some sort of indirect negotiation with the mediation of Amos Hochstein, who is the President Biden's special envoy. He was in Israel today and yesterday, and then also earlier yesterday, he was in Beirut talking with the Lebanese government. They're trying to iron out a potential deal. It seems that on both sides, there currently is a definite interest to reach a deal. Israel, because it feels that it has achieved its main war objective, which was to clear out the area that is adjacent to Israel's northern border of Hezbollah capabilities, weapons, command posts, underground tunnels, and the likes. That has mostly been destroyed, and therefore it feels that it has created the security that is needed to allow its residents, who have had about 60,000 who have had to evacuate their homes, to be able to return home. In addition, on the Lebanese side, the Lebanese government, of course, would want this war to be over, but Hezbollah has also suffered some serious blows. Its main leadership has been eviscerated. Its capabilities have been completely degraded. Its long-range rockets, its surface, its ground-to-sea missile capability, a lot of it has been destroyed. And they are also, under the purview of the Iranians, are trying to make overtures, I think, to the new incoming Trump administration. And one of the ways to do that is to reach a ceasefire. The crux of the problem is going to be about, does Israel retain operational freedom to be able to continue to operate in Lebanon if needed in the future, if it were to see a new threat emerging? Because let's remember that the main fear is that, okay, now great that there's security, but what do I have on the ground that's going to prevent Hezbollah from rebuilding itself? We saw this back in 2006. Israel also then, in the last war, significantly degraded Hezbollah, but it rebuilt all its capabilities to an even greater extent and was much stronger when it went into this war in 2023. So we can't rely just on the United Nations forces or other multinational forces. Israel wants to retain that operational freedom. Of course, the Lebanese don't want Israel to have that operational freedom. So here's the crux of the issue. And I think that's what they're going to try to work through. But it does seem that there's an interest, and I would hope that this will be a way for Israel to be able to end at least that portion of this long conflict that's been going on already for 14 months. At the same time, in the Gaza Strip, there continues to be a concerted effort to also continue to eliminate Hamas capabilities and to try to get to the remaining 101 hostages who are still in Hamas captivity. Unclear how many of them remain alive, but we know that there's still 101 people who are missing and are still somewhere in the Gaza Strip. There is the understanding, I think, here in Israel that by military means, they're not going to be able to get to these people. There are estimates that the hostages, there are estimates that the security around the hostages has been bolstered in recent weeks and months, that there are now orders ever since the 6 hostages were killed about 3 months ago. There are now orders to the Hamas captors, the ones guarding them, that if they hear IDF forces coming close, that they should execute their hostages that they're watching. So Israel is also being careful in that sense, is doing everything it can to gather intelligence. But at the time being, I think what we have to remember is, with all the criticism that we might have of Benjamin Netanyahu's government for maybe not doing enough for the hostages or prioritizing the hostages, it's Hamas that ultimately holds the keys here, and they have to be willing to make a deal. They could end this right now, today, if they were to just release our people and let them come home. And they're refusing to do that because they want to continue fighting. So there's a big disagreement, I would say, or a dispute to some extent within the Israeli government over what's the best move. Does Israel first agree to a ceasefire, after which it tries to reach a deal? Or does it first say, I need a deal before I agree to a cessation of military action? And that's part of this big I would say part of a dispute that's taking place, not necessarily a conflict, but what is the right way to proceed forward? There are those who are pushing, look, first end, and then it will make it easier to reach a deal. But there's the bigger push right now, is that we cannot stop until Hamas is eliminated and we get back our people. This is unclear how much longer this can go on for. And we have to remember is that the 101 people in Gaza The clock ticks for them every single hour, every single day. Their lives are in immediate, clear, and present danger. And as every day that passes that we do not succeed in bringing them home is a day that the chance of bringing them home diminishes.